Well, we have more now on Joe Biden's decision to protect his son Hunter, break his promise and risk his legacy. His sweeping pardon will keep Hunter from going to prison. It also shields him from any new charges that could stem from what he did or may have done over the last decade. Hunter Biden pled guilty to federal tax charges and was convicted of illegally buying a handgun. His sentencing on the gun conviction was just weeks away. For more on this, we've reached Amy Lee Copeland. She's a criminal defense attorney and a former U.S. federal prosecutor. She joins us from Savannah, Georgia. Amy, great to have you.
Thank you, Angie. Thanks for having me here this morning.
Your initial reaction to President Joe Biden's announcement to pardoning his son, couple that, of course, with President-elect Donald Trump calling this an abusive miscarriage of justice.
Angie, I'm not surprised that he pardoned his son. I know that the president always said that he wasn't going to do that, but I figured if the Democrats lost the election, President Biden would in fact pardon Hunter. The most surprising part about this, though, was the fact that he issued a statement. I found that extraordinary. He had been very stoic about his son's prosecution, always pledging to abide by the decisions of the Justice Department, of the juries, of the process. And for him to come back and issue a statement saying this was basically lawfare, to use President Trump's word, that this was a political hack job against my son, I thought that was the most interesting thing about the whole pardon.
That statement, as you commented there, I mean, very detailed, very passionate as well. I want to show our viewers a little bit of that as he believes, we're referring to sort of, I believe in the justice system, but I've wrestled with this. I also believe raw politics has infected this process and led it to a miscarriage of justice. So interesting as he's using those words as well that, President-elect Donald Trump is using. But he's got less than 2 months left to go. As you mentioned, you're not surprised that he did it. But the language in this statement here, speak to that a little bit for us.
Certainly. People get prosecuted for all sorts of reasons. And I guess that's what I was surprised about, rather than just a flat out pardon of his son. He did go out on a line and say, this was something that was done because people had improper motivations to do that. As a criminal defense attorney, I'm constantly explaining to people that just because you got caught speeding and someone else didn't, just to kind of bring down to a basic example, doesn't mean that you weren't violating the law. And so the whole notion that the Justice Department doesn't prosecute people for these types of firearms offenses just isn't quite true. They do. I've had clients who've been prosecuted for those offenses. But, it certainly is understandable. We all do things for our children. He has the power. In terms of whether presidents have exercised their broad pardon power to pardon friends, associates, and family members, that is certainly the case. Even President-elect Trump has done so.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it's going to mean for his legacy now?
I think that he has such a complex legacy. The debate certainly didn't help that legacy with questions about his mental state. I'm not sure that this will be much of an issue going forward. I don't think that this is how people will remember President Biden. But, it's just one more piece in what was an interesting election, interesting cycle, kind of an evolution of American politics.
Indeed, and it's got you and I talking about it. It's got other people talking about it. Certainly, as we mentioned earlier, President-elect Donald Trump is also talking about it. In fact, bringing up the January 6th rioters, or as he refers to hostages here. This is his statement here on social media. Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abusive miscarriage of justice. I think that sort of sets the path forward as to what we might be expecting from Donald Trump.
Absolutely. He has made no bones about it that he thinks that these folks have been wrongly prosecuted. When you look at his own picks, though, for his administration, President-elect Trump did pardon Ivana's father-in-law, Mr. Kushner, who he's now saying he's going to nominate to be ambassador to France. So, again, the fact that people pardon family members, the fact that presidents pardon friends or political allies isn't really anything new, but it is certainly being used against President Biden by the former president in the waning days of Biden's administration.
Well, we'll be watching things as we inch toward January 20th. Amy, it's great to have you on this. Amy Lee Copeland is a criminal defense attorney and a former U.S. federal prosecutor joining us from Savannah, Georgia. Thank you so much again, Amy.
Thank you, Angie.